This is a test. Can anyone at the DDA hear me? Tony, can you hear me?
Hold up here.
Good morning. Can you hear us, Rusty?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay, hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can kind of hear you. We gotta get that fixed.
Okay, I'll get a little closer to my microphone. That better?
We have to be careful what we say. Yes.
Somebody probably wanted it and they're gonna come and ask you to sign their autograph.
In print when I'm in prison.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, Rusty, Michael's trying to get us so we can hear you properly.
Okay.
Can you say something?
No, I'll give a test 1, 2, 3 when you need it.
Okay, a little bit louder.
And you need more than just a flash.
Okay, perfect.
You can have cord, you know.
All right. We're gonna call this meeting to order. At 7:30 a.m.
He can install it. and do
And so, welcome, Mr. Cabrera. Just so you know, your mic is red. You could push it to
there.
talk, or you could turn it off when you're not wanting to talk. Okay, so we're gonna do a call to order and roll call, and because our admin is remote, I'm gonna have you go through and just say your name as
Al
present.
Born here.
Eric Cabrera here. Good here. Gamelki here.
Tony Perry here.
David Mijares here.
Rutherford here.
Rusty Neal here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, pledge of allegiance. Mr. Perry.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Okay, and thankfully, we got out the meeting packet ahead of the meeting, which is nice. Our goal was to get it out around the 20th of each month or just after. So a reminder that if there's something that you want to add to the agenda, make sure you communicate to us. On the consent agenda, we do not have the minutes for June. Rebecca had some challenges and they haven't had a chance to be edited and reviewed yet, so we will have to approve those in August. Are there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. Hello. Hopefully we can make sure you may have to turn your mic on. Oh, it should be on.
Is it on?
Yep.
I haven't prepared, but I am enthusiastic to encourage the downtown development to be supportive of short-term rentals in commercial. And I have talked to a few people who are looking at commercial properties, and we need some commercial realtors to help with short-term rentals. And I would like you all to be supportive of the short-term rental code that we will be voting on after we get 1,018 verified signatures to have all of them out of our neighborhoods and have them all built in commercial zones. That's
Okay.
all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Fetterman. I think from my position, and the board can correct me if I'm out of line, but as a quasi-governmental entity of the city, we probably will not weigh in on the issue, but each of us individually will be voting on that particular issue. So thank you for bringing it up. Okay, new business. Item A, discussion regarding moving meeting. If you recall, last month, we talked about possibly moving the meeting to the evening. It was primarily an accommodation for Miss Anderson, who had conflicts arise in the morning. And with discussion with her over the last month, she believes that she just has too many conflicts going on, so she'll be submitting her letter of resignation, which is unfortunate because I think she was an awesome addition to the board and has been great to work with as our treasurer. And so we do not have that official notification yet, pending us trying to change her mind. But I truly do think that she has too many conflicts. So that being said, is there an appetite to move the meetings to the evening? I think last meeting, everyone was kind of agnostic either way. So I think times are available on the first Tuesdays of the month, but I don't know. I think we're okay staying where we're at. Any thoughts? Concur?
Concur.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have to vote on it. I think it's reality. So next is B, Tava update, Mr. Weaver.
Morning, everyone. Apologize for my voice. Fighting off some allergies today. Okay, so the latest update for Tava is by the end of this month, we'll do our preliminary plat submittal to the city staff. It'll take about 90 days to go through that process of their review, their comment, planning commission, city council. Once we get through with that, then we go back through to do the final plat review and submittal. And that'll take 90 days. So if you do the math, that means that we'll get through all this process, hopefully January of 2024, which then means a groundbreaking, let's hope, in March, April of 2024. So that's the latest timeline. And we feel like that's solid. We've had a lot of meetings with the city staff, smart meetings to get to this point, to get to accurate timeline. So after that, there's the VCUP update that is in process, mostly finished. There's one more meeting to have with Matrix about the VCUP to discuss some language in it. And that hopefully will happen this week. We're trying to line that up. When we meet with Matrix, there's a lot of people that are involved in these calls. And so it's a bit of herding cats to get it all timed out. So we should wrap it up this week and have it done. And Mr. Weatherford and Mr. Perry have been involved with that, reviewing it, seeing it, making sure it's okay in the eyes of the DDA as well, since you on the report as well. The traffic study is almost done. I'm kind of looking at David over here. By the end of this month, we will have it, do you think?
Yeah, my assumption last time I spoke with Jeff is he'd done his traffic counts and was drafting the report and was pretty close, but you and I have talked with Jeff. I've got
Yeah.
to keep on him to get it done.
So let's say by the end of this month for the traffic study.
And Jeff is with which firm?
LSC.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, and everyone understands that can you just explain what the VCUP is really quick? We have some new people
Oh, yeah.
in the audience and we have a new board member.
Yes, the voluntary cleanup plan, it's so I think we all know that the Woodland Station property has a benzene plume subsurface, and we've known this for many years, 15 years, longer probably. But what we did, there was a study done in 2008. This is an update of that study to determine more accurately where the boundaries of this plume, what depth, what levels of contamination, that sort of thing. So this plan, so Matrix Engineering does the environmental on this, and they come up with a plan to mitigate this issue. It doesn't prevent uses from going there. It's not a danger to the public. It's nothing like that. It's more of a logistical plan to keep it safe from the public. So that's what we're waiting on. Is that plan? It's very long and detailed plan. And so that's what we've been working on for the last, probably 120 days.
Okay, yeah, and as a reminder, the plume is a benzene plume that they believe came from across Highway 24 at what is now Pikes Peak Polaris. It used to be a gas station. And so that's where the environmental benzene plume came from. So yeah. Okay,
All right.
any questions for Mr. Weaver? Keep plowing ahead. It's slow and methodical. And the major subdivision is part of that parallel process, because that was a new wrinkle that we hadn't anticipated
That'll be in all that process, that 6-month process.
is included. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add, yeah, one of the things we learned after the property was transferred is that the city would require a major subdivision for the property so that lots could be carved off. It was kind of news to us because when we carved off lot 1, which is now Woodland Hardware, there was no requirement at that time. So it kind of came out of the blue, but thankfully the city's been working hard with Tava to get that dialed in, and looking forward to breaking ground. So thank you, sir. Okay, item C, brought up last time. So we have 2 debts with Vectra Bank. The one is the original loan back from 2009. The other was, I think 2018, when we needed additional monies. And so the 2018 loan, we've already paid the $50,000 payment, $14,359 interest for 2023. So we've already paid that this year, but with the proceeds from the sale of Tava, we do have the additional net funds where we could retire this debt. Now, we are confirming with Vectra that there's no prepayment penalty, which I suspect there's not. I've been working with the new market president, Vincent Prince. Nice guy. He's going to be a great addition, I think, to our community in terms of supporting the community. And so, you know, the question is, and we don't have, I believe the principal is $250 and whatever interest is accumulated this year so far. So is there an appetite? In my world, I'm a big believer in retiring debt when you can. And a good strategy is to kind of take your lease debt and pay that off first. You know, we did pay the city loan off, so that's gone. So we do have the ability to pay this, and then we would just have the original loan left. And so I do not see a reason that we don't do that. I think it's prudent. We minimize our interest expense. We have the luxury of the net proceeds from the sale. Any discussion? Are we awake? I'm not sure I'm awake.
Tony, I do have a question.
Yes,
Have you had an opportunity to review what the interest is on that loan and compare it to what interest we are receiving by the money sitting in the bank? I think that's a question the
we are
citizens.
looking at
wanna-
that. I believe it's gonna be a wash. It's gonna be a net zero.
Okay, I just wanted the citizens to be aware
Yeah.
of
I
why
mean,
we
that's a
do
great
that.
thought. We are contemplating that. So along with verifying no prepayment penalty, verifying that, but we believe it's gonna be a minimal to net zero. Now, we could come back with those exact numbers and come in August, because there's no reason to rush this. Or we can just direct to go ahead and get it paid off, assuming that that's the case. It's Mr. Bourne, I
Mr.
think.
Perry, do you need a resolution to show the intent of the board to further study that and come up with the final numbers?
That's a great question. And so we did discuss this with our attorney, and so we could do it either way. First of all, we will, every thing like this, we will do in the form of a resolution, but because it's an expense, he was okay if we wanted to go ahead and pay it off and then do a resolution next month. I'm okay with waiting, dialing it in, and then doing the resolution as part of the agenda in August. That's actually what I recommend.
Yes, I was wondering if we do a resolution to do the study to find out what the number is, and then subsequent a motion to actually expend those funds.
Well, I wouldn't do a resolution to study, I think, well, we can vote to direct the chair and treasurer to gather the data
Yeah,
so that we can present a resolution in August. That's probably the better motion.
because I would like to get to that point so we know what the numbers are.
Okay, so you would move that the DDA find out the exact numbers, the consequences, and all data around it,
In the
so that we can
timeline.
present and to present an appropriate resolution in August, if appropriate.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
We have a
that
session.
would be my motion.
I will second it.
Got a question
yes.
there. What's the reason to not pay it off? I mean, is there a reason that we should have a reserve?
We have a reserve already.
Mhm.
I can't find a reason.
Okay,
I'm a big fan. I pay my debts every month. And I'm just a fan of that. It's prudent, and remember, we are responsible for these tax monies. And so we're responsible for making prudent decisions with the monies. And so I can't find a reason other than if there's a prepayment penalty or let's say that the interest rate is 3%, which I know it isn't, and we're earning 5% on it, then it probably doesn't make sense to pay it off. But with the motion, I would agree that let's get that data. If it looks like we should do a resolution, then we'll have the attorney draft a proper resolution and present it in August with the data. So we have a first by Mr. Bourne, a second by Mr. Neal. Further discussion. Okay, we'll call for the vote.
Born, yes.
Cabrera, yes.
good, yes.
Gamalki, yes.
Perry, yes.
Mijares, yes.
Weatherford, yes.
Neil, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So item D, we had some fun this month. And I'm gonna go to page 2 of your packet. And so I think the good thing about being human is that we're all human. And we all make mistakes, we all make errors. And so I'm just gonna read this statement, and it's primarily for getting it on the record with the article. And I actually personally did not get stressed out about this, because I think whenever you can invoke conversation and have dialogue, it's a positive, good thing. And so June 14th, the Courier reported on our June 6th DDA meeting and erroneously reported that Chair Perry had suggested moving the COG car to behind Walmart. Okay. I think there was some confusion there because if you recall, we discussed that we had moved the stagecoach over by UPHS, UPass Historical Society. And Donna Fickles, who runs the UPass Historical Society, her dream is to move that stagecoach down behind Walmart. So I think that's where the confusion came in. I never mentioned the COG. And then on the 21st, the Courier reported the correction on page 2. By the way, I did not know that page 2 is where they do all the corrections for the previous newspaper, which is nice. Now I'm going to watch it every week. So I learned something, which is always a good thing. And then on June 28th, the Courier editor printed a letter from a gentleman, basically saying Tony Perry's stupid for moving the COG car behind Walmart, which I would say, yes, if I said that, that would be stupid. And so here's the statement. The DDA has been consistent over the last couple of years of communicating the COG would eventually be moved as our goal of selling Woodland Station would eventually be met. The DDA negotiated that the Tava Group would pay for the move once a suitable location had been identified and all stakeholders agreed on the new location. We have been clear, the stakeholders of the city of Woodland Park, UPHS as co-owners, and frankly, from and the Carter family who paid for the original move, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There is no rush to move it. We hope to be sitting down with the Carter family soon to make clear, and clear up misunderstandings and to make it clear they are an important stakeholder. Now, they are an important stakeholder because there was a donation to bring the COG here in the first place. They did a very nice memorial to Mr. Carter's wife, their mom. Mr. Carter has since passed away. And what's interesting is I've been trying to reach him for like 6 to 9 months, and he passed away about a year ago, I just found out. And I kept talking to his office staff and they kept passing on the information that we wanted to talk. But anyway, so now the Carter children are engaged, and I'll give you a corrected statement because I have all kinds of typos in there. Before I move to a couple of things, so starting on page 3, the Junction House. And so, making lemonade out of some lemons. I think the good thing about this discussion about putting the COG behind Walmart is we could talk about the Junction House. So behind Walmart, there's actually a building with a barn. The building back there was an original waste station. And starting on page 3, oh my gosh, all the way back to, we obviously are not going to read all this. Page 3 through 36 is a historical overview from Mr. Steve Clute, our local historian. And it has quite an interesting history. Those buildings are actually owned by the city of Woodland Park. And there are efforts underway by Mr. Clute and some other historians to get it registered with Colorado State as a landmark, which would make it eligible for some potential grants to get it rehabbed. And so the dream of the local historians, UPass Historical Society, is to turn that into an amenity for the city at some point, where it could be a historical stop by for tourists and for local residents. But that process is going to take a little while. They have to get it designated, which takes a long time. Then we have to find funds to actually make it happen. Now it's outside of the DDA purview because it's down behind Walmart. I certainly support their efforts to make that a net positive for the city. So again, even though it was erroneous that we were planning on putting the COG car back down there, it gave us an opportunity to talk about what's actually down there and what the history is. And what we're trying to accomplish. Now, that said, whenever there's a miscommunication, starting on page 37, I think rightfully so, the Carter family probably saw in the paper or heard from someone that we were just going to throw the cog down behind Walmart and forget about it. And so their attorney sent the city, the DDA, the Planning Commission, the Tava Group, a letter basically saying you can't move it. And so what I will say to that is we've already engaged with their attorney through proper channels. I'll also add that I've had discussions with Mr. Paul Saunier. He was city councilman at the time. He is the one that did all the work to get the cog up here, working with the Carter family and with the DDA and with the city. And so he's going to reach out to him as well. So I believe that once they hear what happened, that we'll be able to have a good discussion about future intent and make sure we get on the same page. So what I will say here is stay tuned, but I have no concern because I think ultimately our goals are aligned, the purpose is aligned in terms of making sure that we have the cog now. There's a lot of people that don't like it. There's a lot of people that do like it. We have it though. It's owned technically by the city and UPass Historical Society. So we are very motivated to make sure that it becomes as much of an amenity for the city of Woodland Park as possible. But also the Carters did a great job of honoring their mom, and we certainly do not want to do anything against that. So stay tuned. We have no other information other than we need to have a discussion, and I think it's coming shortly. And threw in there on page 39 a picture of Miss Carter, and from what I can tell, she was an amazing woman, amazing mom, amazing wife, and so I certainly see why they wanted to honor her. And I will say that the good thing about connecting with Mr. Saunier, there's a lot of history regarding the cog that I think we need to get documented and add as part of this equation of making it an amenity for the city. And some of it's pretty dang cool that I've never even heard, and I'm guessing most of us haven't heard. So we're going to do an effort around, once we get this going, we'll do an effort around pushing that information out as well. So stay tuned on that.
Tony, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to bring to light that when that was first discussed, we were approached by the city, actually by Darren Tangeman, and about the opportunity for this car, and felt that we were the right entity and we had the perfect location for it. So I just like to point out that it wasn't us running, and pursuing this. It was presented to us. And then when Mr. Carter stepped up and offered to pay for it, it was at the time a no-brainer for us.
Yeah.
So I would just like publicly to acknowledge that it wasn't kind of this rogue board that was trying to interfere with development. We're actually doing what we thought was best for the community.
Yeah, what I would say, Jerry, is again, I'm gonna encourage us all. We're looking forward. We're staying positive. We don't even have to have a discussion of a road board. We have this amenity, which frankly, I've spent a lot of time over there the last couple of months and have more appreciation for it. After talking to Mr. Saunier, I have even more appreciation for it. So I think we can turn it into a really super positive and take care of all the stakeholders. So I guess my point is there's no need to worry about the history. We can move forward and turn it into a positive. Okay. Rogue is not even in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next fun thing, and again, what I will say is that the good thing about adult humans having conversation and having discourse and maybe disagreeing and maybe having opposing viewpoints and perspectives can lead to really good things if the adult humans are working to find the best solution overall, right? So we turn our attention to the building. I don't even know, I call it the Martini Hut. It's on page 40. At the last meeting, Mr. Weatherford brought up that, it's been kind of a blight. It's part of our duty as a DDA in the downtown business district is to address blight. And it has been kind of frankly, since the Martini Hut left. It's kind of deteriorated ever since. There's been a couple of uses in there since, but it hasn't gotten any better. It only got worse. I will draw your attention to the picture everyone sees. And to the right there, what you don't see is a Connex building. Guess what? Got moved yesterday. So the Connex building is no longer at the property. And so again, the current owners, which is a son and a mother, their intent was to, and is to build a restaurant there. But the rest of the story, and by the way, once they learned of the newspaper article, they described it as they were really embarrassed. They didn't, in their mind, think about that it was a blight or that it was a problem. What they were dealing with was they bought the building from Mr. Ace. They hired a contractor, and almost immediately the contractor basically bilked them out of a huge amount of money. They admit that they should have had a better contract, but it was based on the contractor had been a customer of theirs in their restaurant for 13 years, so they thought they had a good relationship. And so they just recently obtained a judgment from the contractor, and don't quote me in the exact amount, but about $260,000 that they lost, and then they spent about $20,000 to take the contractor to court. And they knew that they weren't going to recover any monies, but their opinion was we spent the $20,000 so no one else would be burned by him. And so, I think after meeting with them and talking with them, they're in a tough situation. Where we're at today is they agreed to move the Connex. We got the Connex moved. We're going to clean up the property a little bit more. But really where they're at right now is they do want to put a restaurant in there. Their first step is going to bring in a local, I would say reputable general contractor just to do an assessment. I expressed to them that I'm concerned about the leaking roof. I'm concerned about potential asbestos being in there. I'm concerned about potentially electrical, plumbing not being up to code. I'm concerned about check. I mean, and they're not going to know until they get someone in there to truly give them an assessment. And so once that assessment is done, then they have to make a decision on where to proceed from there. They want a restaurant, so it could mean that it works out okay and they'll put the funds in and rehab the building. It could mean that it's just way too expensive and not tenable, and they have to take down the building, and their goal would be to build a new building. But I caution them that before they make any of those decisions, we'll be reaching out and working with the city to make sure that if a building goes down, that a building can actually go back there, because there may not be setbacks, there may not be parking, there may not be a lot of things that prevent them from accomplishing their goal. But the good news is that they seemingly are super committed for all of us, the DEA, the city, whoever, the new general contractor, to help them gather the data to make a good decision. It's not a good situation for them, but again, stay tuned. Again, I think the next steps will be to clean up the, do some weed eating out there and do some minor cosmetic stuff just to hold over. They're not going to want to put a ton of money, but up above with the windows, maybe put some slats to make it look better in the meantime while they're doing this assessment, because I suspect it's going to take them a month or two to really understand what they're dealing with. Anyway, but that being said, you know, I'm really personally huge believer that history matters and we should always pay attention to history. And so on page 41, again, from our good friend, Mr. Ploot, he gives us the little bit of a history of the building. The predominant citizen that occupied that building was some Miss Clara Voss. And this is a little bit of, I'm not going to go through it, but a little bit of history for your edification. You know, because we do have some citizens in town that are like, it's historic, we need to preserve it. And that's great, unless it's $1 million and it's never going to happen. So I think we're going to keep history in mind. And I gave this to them as well, because they've been wanting to come to Woodland Park for a long time. And they certainly want to hopefully plug in a more positive way. Like I said, they were mortified when they saw the article, learned of the article, because they didn't realize they were causing such consternation. And my assessment is they're really good people, and we're going to work hard with them to help them through the process if we can. So any questions on that? Okay. G, officers selections. It is that time of the year where we vote for chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, officer positions for the board. And last month in 9A or 9B, yes, 9A. Man, I need to start drinking coffee. In the board packet on page 42, I reiterated what I think are our main kind of focuses for this year. And there's actually a couple more that I missed, but I guess what I signaled was I am 100% fine with someone else stepping up in the chair role. I'm 100% fine with playing the role for another year. I think my term on the DDA is up next spring or next year at this time. At this time, I don't plan on renewing, staying on the board. I'm not a believer. I'm a believer in having as much positive impact as possible, then moving on. And so there's, but I think we're getting our processes, our systems, our ecosystem dialed in to where other volunteer citizens can step in and keep moving the ball forward. So that said, we need nominations for each of these positions, and we can go out of order and just have a general discussion in terms of who's interested. So I'll just ask, are there parties interested in roles today? We know that we're going to have to replace the treasurer because Rebecca most likely is resigning. So
Tony,
yes,
I would be interested in maintaining the secretary spot simply because of my availability to be able to speed up processes, working with whoever the chair is.
Okay. We like volunteers. If you didn't dial in today, we were going to volunteer you anyway. Okay. Anyone interested in chair, vice chair, treasurer?
John, are you still interested in the vice chair?
I am interested in still being the vice chair.
Not
Very
chair.
good.
Is
Not
it
chair.
changes?
No. No, I think you do that role very well.
Yeah, I think you're gonna stay there, Tony.
Okay. Anyone else interested in chair? Again, my feelings will not be hurt.
Yeah.
Seriously. Seriously. Okay, now we do need a treasurer. I will tell you that where we're at in the process is since we plugged into the ecosystem of the city and we're part of their accounting system, the finance director is just a rock star and he has us kind of dialed in. And so what happens is we used to, when we presented bills or reimbursements or stuff, then we had this stamp that we kind of stamped and initialed and sent to the city. Right now, what we're doing is we created a form that goes with the supporting documentation, like what's being billed. That document, which includes the form and the supporting documentation, is sent electronically right now to myself and to the treasurer. And it's signed electronically through Adobe Sign. And then that is forwarded on to the city. Once the city reviews it, they pay bills every Wednesday. And so if it's prior to any particular Wednesday, they usually get it done that Wednesday. If it's a Thursday, then it will wait until the next Wednesday. So we have a really good, I would say, process going to make it as simple, right at the beginning, last year at this time, we were creating the forms and trying to chase down the treasurer to get a signature. We don't have to do that anymore. So volunteers. So we made it, really the main role of the treasurer is with the chair or the vice chair, depending on if I'm not available, I guess if I become the chair again. Mainly to just review as a set of eyes to make sure everything looks copacetic. And then the city reviews to make sure everything looks copacetic. And then it moves forward and is paid. So we have a really good process in place. So I guess what I'm saying, it's not that much work. So I'm trying to entice someone to jump on it. I think Mr. Al is on the verge of wanting to volunteer.
The one thought that's running through my mind is that my term too will expire July of next year. After all these years, I think it's time for me to move on too. So for continuity purposes, it would not be there. That would be the downside.
Okay.
So somebody that's going to be with the board longer than what I will be, that might be in the best interest of the board.
Well, I guess the caveat to that is we are putting a lot of effort into documenting everything.
Yeah.
So our goal is to have a board packet or a board manual that kind of outlines all the processes, the procedures, how everything works. I don't think we've had that before, but I think it's going to help in that transition because I think there's several of us, but hearing no volunteers, I think it has to go to the new person. That's what I think. I think the new person is stuck
By default,
by default.
Take it.
you will? Are you okay with that?
You agree to it?
Good. That's good.
Promise not to make it too painful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, I am willing to serve one more year. So I guess I'm saying I'm open. So I guess it sounds like our slate will be Mr. Neal for secretary, Mr. Gamelke for vice chair, Mr. Cabrera for treasurer, Mr. Perry for chair. And I think we can make one motion codifying all four of those positions if someone wants to make that motion.
Yeah, I'm
Would
gonna
that
go ahead.
then be called in template?
What?
There's a fancy word, escapes me at the moment.
Hmm.
Where we accept it and move forward.
Well, I think we should just make a motion to appoint Mr. Neal as secretary, and I'll just frame the motion.
Sure.
Someone could take. So the motion would be to appoint Mr. Neal as secretary, Mr. Gamelke as vice chair, Mr. Cabrera as treasurer, and Mr. Perry for chair. That
And
would
I
be-
will second that.
Born would so move.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a first by Mr. Bourne, a second by Mr. Neal. Any further discussion? Regrets? We'll call for the question.
Born, yes.
Cabrera, yes.
Good, yes. Gamelke, yes.
Perry, yes.
Miharis, yes.
Rutherford, yes.
Neil, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for moving forward.
Okay, so again, the board chair report is just a duplication of last month's because I want to make sure that we keep on the record. And I would say that a couple of board members have already said, hey, we need to work on this and this too. So I think our goal will be to add to this list and then kind of track to make sure that we're making progress on our initiatives. On the treasurer's report, since Rebecca's not here, again, this is a replication from last month where we're showing that after sale of the property to the Tava Group, the remaining funds for that transaction is $328,634.45. And so when we talked about assessing the resolution for next month, we'll look at the interest earned on that money versus the interest saved by paying off the loan, and then we can make an informed decision. Admin expenses this month, we just had admin for $200. Then we also had a TIF reimbursement that went to Gold Hill Square. I think that check went out to them last week. And again, how this process works is the city maintains a master spreadsheet for every TIF deal that we have. And once the county gives us their assessor values, we basically go through, and what we've started doing is the city finance director sends us, the DDA, a copy of the spreadsheet, but the city keeps the master. We go through and plug in the variables from the county and arrive at what the TIF reimbursement will be based on the contract. And then we compare that to what the city finance director came up with. And if we're synchronized, then we call that as our quality control check for making sure we're doing the right thing. And so if the board wants a little bit deeper dive into that, maybe one of these meetings, if we're interested, we can I can have a computer here, we can pull up the spreadsheet and show you exactly where everything's kept and how it's kept and how it's managed. But thankfully, ultimately, the city's responsible for making sure that we stay on the right track and they keep us straight and narrow. And like I said, Mr. Vasilati has been a rock star in working with us to make sure we do things better. And then finally, on the last page, you'll see budget compared to actuals. And you'll see we're in pretty good shape. We received about 67% of the TIF revenue so far. That was projected. We've spent 36% of TIF reimbursements, but I do know that there's a couple of big ones coming shortly, Trail Ridge Apartments and some others that are will reach out here shortly. Professional services were 11%. Legal services were at 88%. So I think the good news there is that we anticipated how much effort the Tava sale would take, and we appropriately allocated for that budget item. The counter treasurer fees, we paid 67% of them. Whenever they process the tax monies for the DDA, we pay them a percentage for doing that work, and that's what that is. And then you'll see that the principal and interest loan for the 2012 Vector loan has been paid. The principal and interest for the 2018 has been paid. I did notice there on the interest on the 2012 loan that it says 98%. There was a delay, and frankly, it's only off because Vectra did not send the statement in a timely manner. They basically sent it after it was due, so kind of a problem. But I'm talking to the market president about that, and I'm sure he's going to get it taken care of. And then you'll notice that for the principal city loan, 458%, because basically we paid off the city. So now the city received those funds. So we're on track. I think we're doing a good job. Unless something blows up, for the rest of the year. I think all of our budget items are in line and I don't anticipate any issues.
Cool.
Okay. So, and now's the floor. The attorney couldn't be with us today, but I think that was okay. He and we are trying to minimize his expense. So we're now on 9C, which is board member report. So if there's anything any board member would like to communicate, now's the time. Hopefully in a positive look forward messaging.
Bourne has nothing.
Career has nothing.
I just need to add, and I know we want to let this die and all, but I was just remembering what a role Paul Sonia had in bringing in the car.
Mhm.
So I apologize for leaving his name out earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Thanks, Mr. Good. John?
No, I have nothing.
Yeah, and I'll say as a follow-on to that, Jerry, Mr. Saunier has graciously offered to not only help with the communication with the Carter family, but to get us all the history that he knows that we hadn't heard of before. I've never seen it out there in the ethosphere. I even talked to Mr. Poot about it, and because it's not related to Woodland Park or Teller County, he doesn't know much about it. But that particular COG car has some very interesting history that is unique to even the other cars that were given away. So I'm looking forward to working with him to work with the Carter family, and we'll get this figured out. And I believe it's gonna turn into a super cool thing when all is said and done. Mr. Mijares.
The only thing I would mention is I have a new project coming up, clients that are gonna do a building and submit for DEA reimbursement. The old auction house, and they're early in the process, and just clarification on the process. I know, they're just getting started. I'm trying to get them in here as soon as possible to have that discussion with us. And just kind of make sure we have that process locked in for projects moving forward.
Yeah, we did have a initial kind of high level discussion with them.
Mhm.
And I think what we're gonna do is to fall back on Mr. Bourne and Miss Carrick's work from previous board iterations, where they kind of came up with a fairly simplified process for submitting the TIF reimbursement request. And then we now do have with our new attorney a template which will help guide us and make it much simpler. As a matter of fact, it's public record, so I think I've already emailed that out to them so that they can look at it. And while we're at it, we have not signed the agreement with AJ's yet, even though we've agreed to it, because we need to make sure that they and we are on the same page in terms of the reimbursement schedule. That's the one thing that wasn't really contemplated, discussed, and so I'm making sure the attorneys making sure that we're doing the right thing there. So thank you for bringing that up, and looking forward to hearing about that project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be
If
fun.
everyone doesn't know, can you describe where the old auction barn, because some of us maybe don't know where that's at.
The old auction barn is on Chester on the north side, east side of the highway. Kind of in the floodplain next to Choices, north of McDonald's, that parcel right there that it's kind of been vacant for a few years. And
Since
they've,
at least 2007, 8.
yeah, and they've got kind of a recreational use in mind, so more,
It's behind the vet,
Downtown
it's behind
attractions.
the vet clinic there.
yeah, just
Took
east of
over
the
the-
vet clinic there.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to hearing about it.
I just wanted to point out, it was just at last month's meeting, we talked about that blight issue. In one short month, thanks to Pat Hill's article, we've had some real action take place and a positive dialogue. And I wish everything would work so quick around here.
Well, again, it's my belief that when we all have the same end goal in mind and we're not held up by pettiness and negativity and past whatever, we can make good things happen. And so that's what I'm hoping over the next year, we're gonna create really good things for the downtown and have a good year for the DDA. So thank you. Mr. Neal.
I have nothing for the DDA meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So,
We're done. Move to adjourn.
okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And thank you to our new audience member.
That document, that 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Start to give a frame. You can have that.
Oh.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me, you put it in my fingers, I let it go.
I'm gonna make all new ones for next time.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Eric, for stepping up.
Thank you, Eric, for
Appreciate
accepting
you
the fact
volunteering.
that you were voluntold.
Yes,
That's more like it.
I worked for the government for 24 years. That's happened quite a bit.
And
That's how it
you're
works.
probably married.
I am.
No, there you is. Okay.
I saw it come.
Well, David's gonna be on probably the same line. Because I think there's enough out there. We should just count this.